What's up, guys? Joe Clem 15 coming at you. A little bit sick, but still I feel like doing a video. Might as well get some. There's been a lot of talk and discussion about things lately. I figured I'd chime in and give you my thoughts. Um, so I guess I'll start off with, the whole controversy with Muhammad Ali or all-time greats being compared to Floyd and Manny. Um, you know, honestly, it's not really something I too much care about. I feel like people have natural tendencies to defend what they most admire. Um, when I look at this, people get so offended that people make comparisons between Manny to Ali, or Floyd to Ali, or Floyd to Robinson. And then they say, oh, there can't be any comparison. They're not even on the same level. A comparison is just pointing out things, similarities, or even things that are not alike. Even when people talk about how Floyd or Manny won't measure up to this person, and they form an argument uh, statistically or just by giving their thoughts and opinions about the matter, they're making a comparison. um, I think it's ridiculous to say that there is no comparison between uh, any all-time great and another all-time great. There's always going to be, you can always compare them. Okay, just because you compare two great fighters doesn't mean that you're saying that they're the same or on the same level or anything like that. Quite frankly, I think Muhammad Ali is the greatest of all time, pound for pound. That's my opinion. Um, but I think that there's similarities between both Ali and Manny and Floyd and Ali. It's. I mean, I guess for one, when it comes, like, let's talk about Manny. Some people say, oh well, Manny can't make the same contributions as Ali has done for the sport or for the world, yada yada yada. But the fact of the matter is, you can't really say that. You don't know what Pacquiao's impact will be on the sport until years after he's gone. Much like, what happened with Muhammad Ali. In my opinion, I think that there is a similarity between Ali and Manny in terms of contributions to the sport, because people don't really see it now, but decades from now, you're gonna see uh, an uproar of Asian talent within the sport, and it probably stems from Manny Pacquiao. There have been Asians, who have, been successful in the sport, but he's arguably the greatest Asian athlete of all time, and definitely the greatest Asian boxer of all time. At a time when the sport needs reviving, he's brought an entire, you know, race to its attention. Asia makes up more than half of the Earth's population. I'm not saying that every single Asian on Earth is going to watch boxing, but it's a huge contribution to the sport. Uh, you know, it's good, even though it could be annoying as hell, but it's good that Filipino fans are getting involved with the sport, because in essence it really is good for the sport to have more focus on it. Years from now, you can't really see that now, but years from now you'll see, like, uh, you're gonna start seeing a lot more Filipino athletes taking part in boxing, and maybe even sports in general, because young Asian or young Filipino boys and girls, for that matter, aspire and idolize Manny, and it will motivate themselves to try out something athletically, if not boxing. So I think that Manny's contributions to the sport are being very undermined. Uh, The fact is, he's the most exciting fighter in the world to the majority of people, and you know, I'm thankful. I for one am thankful that he's taking part in the sport of boxing because he is good for boxing. There's no question about that. You know, if you have a problem with the way his career is being managed, you're being mad at the wrong people. It's not Manny. Manny doesn't sit there and, I mean, he has a voice, but most animosity and anger towards what's going on, the flaws within Manny's career, has nothing to really do with Manny. It has to do with the sport itself. It needs to be directed towards this market that has become very loose. Well, shit, I was gonna say loose with rules, but there seems to be no rules, and that's something that just steadily happened over the decades within boxing. You know, that's the real problem, not fighters. So yeah, you know, obviously Manny's an all-time great. He's high on the all-time great list. He's the biggest contributor to the sport for a while, believe it or not. I mean, in terms of, he's, in a way, he is transcending the sport. You just can't, people can't see it because we're in the moment. People weren't talking about how Ali's presence and impact, you know, took part in the world. They weren't talking about that during the time. During the time, people wanted him to shut up. It wasn't until later, and they looked back and be like, damn, look where he brought us. I predict it's going to be the same thing with Pacquiao when his career is done and we're remembering, we're looking back. In terms of, okay, another thing, okay, I'll get to Mayweather, I guess. So you know, I guess Mayweather doesn't stack up when it comes to Ali. There is no comparison between his accomplishments and Ali's. And you know, like I said, I think Ali, pound for pound, just overall, is the greatest of all time. And at the end of this video, I'll get to why I believe that. Actually, I won't say believe that. I know that. But I think Mayweather, I think his accomplishments are being undermined, just like Manny's contributions to the sport are being undermined. When people evaluate Mayweather's career in comparison to other all-time greats, they forget the fact that Mayweather's career isn't done. So if you're gonna compare Mayweather's career to Ali's career, especially since they came into the sport both at 19 years old, you should think to yourself, well, what had Ali accomplished from 19 years old to, well, since nobody wants to give credit to Mayweather for fighting Marquez and Shane Mosley, you could say before the retirement. So, you know, what had Ali done from age 19 to age 31 or 30? Ali was undefeated when he won, up until he won the championship against Sonny Liston. He had probably about 20 fights. Mayweather had about 17 fights before he won the official, you know, the WBC super featherweight title. Ali was 20-0 or whatever when he won the WBC World Championship title. From then on, they defended it, both Ali and Floyd. Floyd, obviously, as a smaller fighter, has been moving up in weight 4 more classes. And look, if you're gonna be looking at things from an old school perspective, it has to keep that consistency. Okay, you may have a problem with Floyd's opponents, but if we were fighting in the old school, Floyd is fighting the #1 guys, whether they're old, whether they are, I don't care what you have to say about him, but he's beaten the #1 or linear champion from 5 different divisions. Gennaro Hernandez, Castillo, Hatton, Baltimore / Judah, whomever you want to choose for that one, Oscar De La Hoya. And you might say, oh, well, Hatton, he was bigger than Hatton. Well, guess what? Again, if you're going to be looking at this from an old school perspective, guess what? There was no junior welterweight division back when, back in the old school. So Floyd Mayweather and Ricky Hatton fight would have to be at welterweight. Okay, so that really is no excuse to me, especially when they come into the ring the same size. Hatton probably comes in at that time, probably came in at a heavier weight. So up until I want to say age 30. Age 30 is when Mayweather beat De La Hoya for his fifth championship, the fifth linear championship. Forget about all the other championships. We're talking about the number one. Okay, we're talking about the numero uno person. I'll just count that as 5 championships, the linear champion. Okay, by age 30 or early 31, Ali had just lost to Ken Norton, and if you want to go in, a little bit later, he rematched him and got a controversial decision. It wasn't until age, probably 32, age 32, until he beat George Foreman. Okay, but the point is, say if we were evaluating Mayweather's career up until a few years ago, when you compare him to Ali, in essence, how many great fighters from age 19 to age 30, how many all-time great fighters had Ali fought? Sonny Liston, Floyd Patterson. And quite frankly, to be honest, Floyd Patterson to me was a small guy who had more credibility in the light heavyweight division. He lost to Jerry Quarry twice as a heavyweight. To me, he was never able really to compete well at heavyweight. But people don't look at that. He fights Ali twice. Ali gets the feather in his caps for that. But, forget it. Let's say, if you want to go on further, we'll take in consideration the George Foreman win. So now that Mayweather's 34. He just turned 34 today, or yesterday, or something like that. By then, Ali had beat George Foreman. Mayweather comes back and he beats the number 1 lightweight, Juan Manuel Marquez, and he beats the number 1 welterweight, Shea Mosley. I don't think, in terms of all-time greats, George Foreman ranks higher than Marquez and Shea Mosley. I think Shea Mosley's high up there, but I think George Foreman's higher. But the problem I have with this is, okay, Marquez is a lightweight, and people are upset that he's fight welterweight, and Mayweather's the bigger guy. But again, we have a situation where if this was an old school fight, Marquez would have to be fighting welterweight if these two were to fight, because Marquez enters the ring above 140, even when he was a super featherweight. Okay, because remember, back then you weighed in the day of the fight, not the day before. So the discrepancy in weight is you have to really take things into consideration. Marquez is truly a welterweight of the past, whether you like that or not. There's no way he cannot enter the ring at 135 fight night. He'd be drained. Okay, but aside from that, hey, Mayweather's a bigger guy. He probably came in 10 pounds bigger than Marquez. But while you point to that, people give Ali credit, and I'm not discrediting Ali in no way. I give him credit for it too. But it has to go both ways. He fought Bob Foster, a glorified light heavyweight. Again, kind of like Floyd Patterson. Well, Ali fought Bob Foster. Bob Foster weighed in at 180 pounds. That's my size. Ali weighed in at 220 pounds. That's a difference of 40 pounds. That's a way bigger size significance than Floyd versus Marquez. But Ali beating Bob Foster is a great victory. It's a feather in his cap. That's one of the Hall of Famers, one of the many Hall of Famers he beat, along with Floyd Patterson. Floyd Patterson and Bob Foster, they weren't too small. But Hatton and Marquez were too small for Floyd. Come on. You know, the reason if you're gonna evaluate, when you're gonna compare Ali versus Floyd, if you want to get a real accurate depiction of how that debate should be, you should probably wait till Mayweather's career is totally over. But if not, you should do it to, from the beginning of Ali's career until whatever point you want to compare Mayweather's career, at whatever age you want to, stop that. But it shouldn't be Muhammad Ali's entire career versus Mayweather's up to date. That's not really fair in my opinion. But overall, that's just my thoughts on the topic. I think Ali is the greatest of all time, simply because of the fact that he fought in an era where the heavyweight division was at its most had the most competition, and because 50 or 40 years later, there still hasn't been a heavyweight that has surpassed him in skill or in athleticism, which gives testimony to how far ahead of his time he was in and outside of the ring. Okay? I think he would dominate the sport in decades after his, and definitely before his. In terms of, Mayweather being scared to him skillfully, I think Mayweather's a significantly better fighter than Ali is. The one thing I can criticize Ali about, in terms of his skill set, you've heard it before, he doesn't go to the body, but aside from that, he can't fight coming forward. He was blessed to be in an era where he was the only pure boxer. Floyd has, had to fight people like Corley and Judah, Sean Bay Mitchell, who aren't necessarily they're not all-time great fighters, but they're still very good fighters. They're world-class opponents in which he had to fight coming forward. He couldn't outbox them necessarily. And they were southpaw. I can't think of one all-time great southpaw that Ali fought. And maybe there is, I just can't think of one, but whatever. Yeah, I think that's gonna be it for this video, because I want to make another video in regards to the whole race debate and all this shit about race. But basically those are my thoughts on the matter. I think when it's all said and done, Manny and Floyd are going to be high on the all-time great list by the time their careers are over. And when it comes to contribution to the sport, Manny, I'm telling you, you don't see it now because we're living in it right now. People didn't start glorifying and praising Ali until after his career was done, or at least towards the tail end. Ugh, whatever.